If you had a budget of 25,000 pesos, what smartphone would you be buying today? It's a tough question to ask since there are a lot of models on the market that are around or below that price point. But there are two phones released in 2024 that are priced at exactly 24,999 pesos, making them right for a comparative video. And these phones are the Honor 200 and the OPPO Reno12. These two phones are often overshadowed by their more powerful and capable siblings, the Honor 200 Pro and the OPPO Reno12 Pro, given what they are capable of. However, those are a lot more expensive, making them a bit out of reach for some buyers. As a result, the Honor 200 and the OPPO Reno12 might be on the table for some buyers who are looking to upgrade this 2024. Despite having the same price tag, there are a few differences between the Honor 200 and the OPPO Reno12. But is there one phone that stands out more against the other? Well, I'm Jose from Yucatech. Let's find out in this video. Let's start with something a bit more subjective, the design of the phones. The two phones are, well, look somewhat similar, but they're still easily identifiable. You can still tell which one is which one's the Honor and which one's the OPPO. Starting with the Honor 200, our unit is in the black colorway and it looks very sleek and minimalist. The camera island is oval shaped and located on the upper left side with a chrome bezel that houses the triple camera system. And as you notice, it has an all-black look, giving it a more sleeker design. The rest of the back panel is left clean apart from the Honor logo on the lower left part and along with some production logos on the lower right part. I do wish that Honor cleaned it up a bit more, leaving only the Honor logo, but overall, it's still a clean looking phone. Meanwhile, on the OPPO Reno12, it features a similar layout with the camera island on the upper left side of the back panel. Unlike the Honor 200 though, the camera island of the Reno12 is rectangular shaped. It also features a fluted bezel design which you may or may not like, and the words AI camera system. The Reno12 unit we have is in the matte brown colorway and it definitely looks great. The back panel is a lot cleaner with only the OPPO logo at the bottom center, which is somewhat hidden and blended well with the back panel. Both phones feature dual stereo speakers, a USB-C port, and an IR blaster. The back panels and frames are made of plastic and they do feel sturdy. Interestingly, only the OPPO Reno12 features an official IP rating of IP65 for dust and water resistance. The Honor 200 doesn't have an official IP rating, so you should be careful when using this phone. While style might be subjective, the advantage of having an official IP rating does go a long way because you never know what might happen when you're using this phone. So with that, the OPPO Reno12 scores its first points. Now, moving on to the display, the Honor 200 and the OPPO Reno12 are almost evenly matched here, well, at least on paper. Starting with the Honor 200, you have a 6.7-inch quad curved OLED panel with a refresh rate of 120 Hz. It's a bright display too, with a peak brightness of up to 4,000 nits, and the screen is TUV flicker-free certified. This being an OLED panel, you do have high pixel density, giving you a very enjoyable viewing experience. There are also very slim borders, giving you a lot more screen to work with. Not to mention, watching videos and movies is very enjoyable on this phone. The Reno12 also features a 6.7-inch display but uses OPPO's 3D curved AMOLED panel. It also comes with a 120 Hz refresh rate, but it only has 1,200 nits of peak brightness. It's more than enough for use outdoors, but it's quite far from the Honor 200's 4,000 nit brightness. The borders are near invisible as well, and since this is also an AMOLED panel, you have great colors and you do get really nice viewing pleasure when you're watching movies and videos. While it might not be as bright as the display of the Honor 200, the OPPO Reno12 does have HDR10+ support, which the Honor 200 doesn't have. Still, that's not to say that the display of the Honor 200 doesn't look great. In terms of audio, both phones come with dual stereo speakers, and they're decent at best, and none of them have tuning from an audio company. Interestingly, the Honor 200 does seem to have the louder speakers, but the quality is a bit better on the Reno12. Considering how closely matched they are in this category, I'll have to give this point to both of them, and it's a tie. If there was one thing both phones are good at, it's the cameras. The Honor 200 and the OPPO Reno12 both feature a triple camera system that is capable of capturing amazing photos and videos. On the Honor 200, you have a triple camera system highlighted by a 50 megapixel main shooter, 50 megapixel telephoto, and 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor. At the front, you have a 50 megapixel shooter for selfies. It doesn't have the same specs as the 200 Pro, but its quality isn't too far off from its more capable sibling. You get sharp images all around with nice contrast and natural looking colors, although you you can adjust these parameters in the setting if you want HDR or more. Overall though, it's already good as it is. There's also optical image stabilization and electronic image stabilization, which comes in very handy, especially when taking low light photos. And just like the 200 Pro, you have AI post-processing to help enhance your photos. The AI enhancement isn't as big as compared to the 200 Pro, but it's more than enough to help with the low light shots. As for the ultra-wide, well, it's decent at best. On the OPPO Reno12, you have a triple camera system as well, highlighted by a 50 megapixel main shooter that uses a Sony LYT600 sensor. The other lenses consist of an 8 megapixel ultra-wide that uses a Sony IMX355 lens and a 2 megapixel macro sensor. For selfies, you have a 32 megapixel front-facing camera. When taking photos, you can capture some amazing images using the Reno12, especially when you're using the main shooter. The images are sharp overall and you do get decent bokeh as well. Even at night, the main sensor captures great detail, but you will need a very steady pair of hands to make use of it. Otherwise, the image will just come out a bit blurry. Only the main shooter is worth noting since the 8 megapixel ultrawide and the 2 megapixel macro lenses aren't the best. In the day or in well-lit conditions, they're decent, but the drop in quality is quite obvious, especially at night or in low light. It also doesn't have that great of a zoom as compared to the Honor 200 since it doesn't have a telephoto lens. For videos, both phones can record at 4K at 30 FPS max, and they're overall decent at best. It's similar to what you would find on the image, but just translated to video. Just like the Honor 200 Pro, the 200 does have AI help even when you're shooting at 4K, but if you want even more stable shots, you do need to go down to 1080p. The same can be said about the Reno12. You do have ultra steady, but it's only available at 1080p at 60 FPS. At 4K, the difference in quality isn't that obvious, but at night, it's very obvious, and especially when you try to zoom in. Now that you've seen everything, with that, we'll have to give a point to the Honor 200 in the camera comparable. Not only does this perform a lot better, but it has the telephoto zoom, which you'll be using a lot more. So, 1 point for Honor. Under the hood, there is a big difference in terms of chipset. The Honor 200 uses a Qualcomm Snapdragon 7 Gen 3 chipset, and it comes with 12GB of RAM and up to 512GB of internal storage. In comparison, the OPPO Reno12 packs a MediaTek Dimensity 7300 chipset and can be spec'd with up to 12GB of RAM and 512GB of storage. So, more or less the same, right? And of course, as you would expect, both phones can run your day-to-day tasks without any issues whatsoever. These are very capable chipsets after all. In terms of gaming, they're great too. We were able to play light and graphic-intensive titles without any issues on both of these phones. Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail weren't an issue, and we could even bump up the graphic settings a bit, and the phones could still handle them. So, in real-world situations, you won't exactly notice any difference between both of these phones. However, the benchmarks tell an entirely different story. The Honor 200 scored the higher Antutu score with around 831,000 points versus the Reno12 score of 642,000. It's a similar story when it comes to the Geekbench 6 results, which will be flashing on screen right now. Interestingly though, the Reno12 scored higher than the Honor 200 on 3D Mark Wildlife with 3,169 points versus 1,776 points on the 200. Whatever the case though, you won't be disappointed by either phone, whether you're using it for day-to-day tasks or gaming. However, do note that both phones tend to heat up after extended periods of playing graphic-intensive titles. And based on the benchmark results alone, I'd have to give this point to the Honor 200. Either way, you won't be disappointed by the Reno12, especially if you love the game or, just do a lot of tasks. Both phones run on Android 14, with the Honor 200 skinned with Magic OS 8.0, while the OPPO Reno12 is skinned with Color OS 14. It's easy to navigate through both phones, and they do have similar features such as smart sidebar, floating windows, and split view, which are normal on Android 14 phones, so you will feel right at home. However, the Honor 200 does have the AI Essentials or AI Suggestions folder on the home screen, which shows the apps you use the most. Both phones also come with a lot of bloatware, but the Reno12 does have more bloatware that you have to deal with or remove before you use the phone. In terms of connectivity, the Honor 200 and the OPPO Reno12 come with your usual suites of features: 5G, Wi-Fi 6, NFC, and GPS. The Reno12 does support Bluetooth 5.4, while the Honor 200 only supports Bluetooth 5.3, but that's a very small difference to some of you. The big difference between the two is the battery. The Honor 200 has a bigger 5,200 mAh battery pack, while the Reno12 comes with the standard 5,000 mAh battery pack. With that, you'd expect the Honor 200 to last a lot longer, right? Well, The battery benchmarks showed a different result. Using PCMark's Work 3.0 battery test, the Honor 200 lasted only 12 hours and 59 minutes, while the Reno 12 managed to last 15 hours and 34 minutes. For reference, the test was done on airplane mode with the screen brightness at 50% and 0 volume. The Honor 200 does have a slightly faster charging speed though at 100 watts versus the Reno 12's 80 watt charging speed, but still, it's a big difference when it comes to battery life, and it's very significant. And with that, the Reno 12 takes its final point in this comparo thanks to its longer lasting battery despite having a smaller or regular sized battery pack. So it's 2 for 2 for both of these phones. And as I mentioned earlier, both the Honor 200 and the OPPO Reno12 retail at 24,999 pesos. But each one does have its advantages and disadvantages as we've seen in this video. If you want a phone that takes better photos and performs better, well, at least on benchmarks, then the Honor 200 is definitely the one you should pick. But if you want a phone with a longer battery life and at least something more durable with an official IP rating, then the OPPO Reno12 won't let you down. Still, whatever phone you choose, you're bound to enjoy using either one of these. But there are also other phones out there for around the same price tag or even cheaper. But maybe that's for another video. For this comparo though, which one would you choose? The Honor 200 or the OPPO Reno12? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, do drop a like and subscribe to watch more. Of course, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms such as Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. Visit yugatech.com to stay updated with the latest tech news and reviews. You can even read our reviews of these phones, which are now live on the Yugatech website. So, once again, this has been Zeh, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.